I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Ryan Garvey, owner of Quality Overhead Doors. What's up, podcast, episode 45. Welcome to the On the Stacks podcast, Ryan.
How are you, man?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. First timer.
First time, first podcast.
First podcast.
Wow. This is my first flannel. I'm wearing a flannel.
It looks good. It looks good.
Thanks. I appreciate it. So let's jump right into it, talk a little bit about your background and kind of take me back to the beginning, and then we'll talk about, your business, garage doors and the awnings. We'll talk about that a little bit too, but kind of take me back to the beginning, where did you get started?
From Nanticoke. Graduated from there, and out of high school, I wanted to go in the military. After the military, I wanted to do something, I guess, law enforcement related, like DEA, like Drug Task Force. I toot my own horn a lot, but 30 and I've never done any type of illegal narcotic or anything like that. So that was kind of my thing I wanted to do when I was younger. But I would have never in a million years thought I would own a garage door company. And if it's a million years for that, it's 2 million for an awning company. So, yeah. But military got completely thrown off. I got in trouble when I was 18. So went to jail, have a record. So after that, it was kind of just finding anybody that would hire me pretty much. So I was 19. I cooked in restaurants. I got into construction. I got into the labor's union and did a lot of gas pipeline work and stuff like that. I liked it. Then I worked for Bellevue Plumbing and Heating out of Kingston. I'll put a plug in there for them.
Yeah. But shout out to Seth.
Yeah, Seth and Josh. Yep. So every time I would get laid off from the union, I'd work for those guys, and I was like, I don't really want to do construction. I'm gonna go back to college. So I went to LCC for exercise science. Wanted to follow kinesiology, anything that had to do with body mechanics and stuff. I competed in powerlifting. I trained MMA. I wrestled since I was old enough to walk. So everything I did was athletic. So that was the plan. And while I was in school, I worked for Quality Overhead Doors 2 days a week. It was my buddy Marcus. It was his father's. And he just, needed a part-time kid to fill in the gaps. And I also worked at GNC and Enterprise Car Rental. So when I wasn't in school, I was either installing garage doors or slinging supplements, studying when no customers were at the mall.
Or renting out cars?
Yeah. We were cleaning them and gassing them up.
Yeah.
So okay. That's what we were. I cleaned cars on the weekends for Enterprise up at the airport. So, I was doing easy 40 hours a week in work, and then while you were school full time.
While you were still in school?
Yeah. And my last semester, I believe, his name was Mark. He passed away unexpectedly. We worked Easter break. 2 weeks later, passed away. I don't remember if it was me or Marcus, but one of us brought up, what are we going to do about the doors, this and that? And I'm like, I'll give it a shot. I was 25, turning 26. Super nervous. Had no idea what I was doing. Had no idea how to run a business, how to own a business. I was completely out of my league. But I could work on my hands and I can install a door. So I'm like, live at home, not married, no kids. If I'm ever going to make a risky business move, this is it.
Now's the time.
And 4 years later, it's going good. Second year was rough. Second year was real rough. I worked for Bellio a lot. My first year, I still had my job at Enterprise and GNC. So instead of being in
as the business owner,
yeah.
Once you purchased the business,
yep. You purchased the business.
So you got this business and you're doing it full time now for 2 years, but you were still working other jobs.
Oh yeah. So instead of being in school, 3 days a week, I was doing the doors 3 days a week, and then my other 2 part-time jobs I kept because I didn't know what was going to happen. So
okay.
Now instead of 40 hours in school, I'm doing 40 hours and, pretending to be a business owner,
Pretending,
so, yeah. So it just made contact with a lot of his previous customers and a lot of contracts that he had, and just said, hey, if you would still like to use me, I'd appreciate it. I know you've seen me around, you've met me in the past, so by all means, keep calling me. And First year I landed a huge commercial job, 20 doors. I'm like, oh man, this is great. And I pulled everybody I knew that was laid off for the winter. I'm like, hey, you guys want to work?
Anyone want to help?
Yeah. So, and that's what I did the first 2 years. It was if I had a buddy laid off for the winter or someone who didn't have weekends off, but he had Monday, Tuesday off, I was pretty much just digging around. Hey, who needs a couple hours? Who needs a day here, a day there? And that's how I was kind of getting by. And second year was bad. I'm like, did I make the right decision? Did I screw up? Should I have stayed in school?
Why was it bad?
Just, I don't know if it was his existing clientele kind of dried up because this isn't an everyday service. You see me and then hopefully you don't see me again for years. So
you hope to come back every year. But.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I'm hoping nothing breaks for you and, you have a good, tenure with your door and, you call me when there's a problem. So I don't know if just the work that I inherited kind of just fizzled out and I wasn't doing enough on my own. So the second year I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to make it work. I worked for Bellio. I kept, doing side jobs here and there. I cooked in restaurants. I've done everything under the sun since I was 18. I worked at K Jewelers. I've done everything. And this is the one thing that stuck that I love doing it. So Marcus is like my number one supporter. He's like, no, you're the garage door guru. Like, you're the best. If we got him on the phone right now, the first thing he'd say is, oh, you're the best garage door guy I know.
Yeah.
So he's like, nah, keep going. So I toughed out my second year and third year really picked up. Fourth year was great. So I don't know if it was a mixture of just meeting people and getting my name out there and my reputation and then, doing good work, advertising.
Yeah. How did you do it? Like, how did you, like you said, it's probably been a mix of a lot of different things, but.
A lot of Facebook, which was huge. Anybody that's even asked me, hey, I'm thinking about get on Facebook. Don't worry about, Google. Don't worry about the newspaper. Don't worry about billboards. Get on Facebook.
Or on the On the Stacks podcast.
I mean, either or.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where it's the easiest way to get yourself out there for the cheapest amount of money.
Sure. Yeah.
And you can get thousands of eyes on a post for $5 or for free if you convince all of your friends and family to constantly share your stuff. So, which is also what I push pretty hard. But a lot of things that I noticed was I always had my phone on me. So I always answered. That was huge. I'd pick up the phone on the second ring and I'd have a customer go, you're the fourth person I've called. And no one's answering.
And you're the only one picking up.
Yeah. A couple over in Wyoming, they went out for a late dinner. They had a couple drinks. They came home. It was 11:30 at night. They closed their garage door. Their spring broke. They both had work at 6 a.m. So at 11:30 at night, I drove to Wyoming and I got their cars out for them. Just little stuff like that I was doing that I didn't think anything of it. Like, that's how I was raised. Whether or not it was being a business owner or not, you have a responsibility. You got to take care of it. So I'm just like,
you're just doing the right thing.
Yeah, this is what I have to do. And then I remember the second or third time I did a late call like that, the customer's like, yeah, so what's your after hours charge? And I go, what's an after hours charge?
And you're like, oh shit.
I was that naive. Yeah. I had no idea what they were even talking about. I had one guy go, oh, I don't want you to come on the weekend because I don't want to get charged more. And I said, why would I charge you more? Well, because you're coming on the weekend. And I'm like, I could do that? No.
Yeah.
But it was one of those things like that's not how I thought. And I think the more customers I met, the more new. That's not how, I looked at the business. In all honesty, I looked at it as I'm the boss. If I want a week off, I'm taking a week off. If I don't want to work, I don't want to work. That in the beginning, that was my whole mind state. I'm the boss. I could do what I want. This is great. 25-year-old, wet behind the ears, like, oh, this is great. I could go out on a Wednesday night with my friends that are in college because I don't have to work tomorrow if I don't want to. That was my initial,
what you thought drive. It would be like.
Yeah. And could not have been more wrong, which is a good thing. I remember I went to a service call in full dress clothes. And the wife came outside. She's like, thank you so much. We have a huge dinner party tonight for my husband for work. We can't miss it. And she's like, well, why are you in dress clothes? And I said, oh, my youngest sister graduated high school today. She's like, oh my God, did you miss the graduation? I said, no. I just left. I'm on my way to the dinner. So I just figured, I'll stop and get your car out. She called me when I was on my way to the dinner. So I'm in full dress clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Working on her garage. She couldn't believe it. So I think that was one of the big things that pushed this past year to the point that it was at, which is great. And then from there, it's just learning. I did not know how much I did not know in the beginning, just about everything, about how to manage your money. Because, you get a decent amount of money in a week sometimes, and you're like, oh man, I could buy this and I could buy that. Not thinking, well, what if I don't get any money in next week? Or what if I don't get any money in next month? So that was a huge learning curve.
So how did you learn to, figure these things out? How'd you figure it out? What did you do?
My second year, I was in debt beyond belief. Like crippling, I'm panicking debt. Now I live with my parents. My only responsibilities were what I created for myself. So, if I had a car payment or a cell phone bill or insurance, like that was it.
Yeah, so you didn't have like a whole lot.
Yeah. I didn't have any extenuating circumstances on stuff that I had to pay out for, which was one of the reasons why I went forward with buying it to begin with. I had a ton of support from Josh Bellio. He was one of the main people that convinced me to go forward with it. And then my stepdad, one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my entire life. And he, ever since I was probably 20, and I would come home and go, all right, so Chris, he knew he was either opening his wallet or he was signing something. So when I first brought it up to him, like, hey, how about we buy a garage door company? And we always joke and say he's the CEO that never sees any of the CEO money.
Yeah.
So, but that driving force, that pushing, like, oh, you could do this, you're personable, a lot of people, like, you're a hard worker. I mean, when I was on the gas pipeline, you're talking 70, 80-hour weeks every week. You might have some listeners out there that have done it, and it sucks. But the money was good, and, it was worth it at the time. So the working part wasn't the issue. It was like, like I just said, figuring everything else out. So
figuring out the actual business side.
Yeah. So that big job I bought a rental property. And I'm like, oh, this is how I'm going to supplement my income for a slow month. I'm going to do a rental property, and this is going to be great. I was also very mistaken. There was so much work and responsibility with being a landlord. And I definitely think if I worked like a Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, I probably would have had a better grasp or attitude towards it. But when it's dead of winter, that's my busy season. So I'm pulling out of my driveway 6:45, 7 o'clock in the morning, freezing all day. Because a lot of people around here do not have a heated garage, which is understandable. But I'm pulling into my house at 8 o'clock at night, just did 12, 13 hours, and then the phone rings. Hey, this is wrong with the house. Or hey, this is going on. Or hey, could you get down here? I'm like, yeah, and I'm on my way. So that was a good learning experience too, because that is what pushed me in the direction of you need to save and you need to take care of the business, and then eventually the business will take care of you type of deal. So that was the biggest. You're going to put, you make 20, you're putting 19 away and you're keeping 1. Mm-hmm. That's when I learned that was with the rental. So I got out of that for now, sold the rental and all that. And I was actually going to get into general construction. And I keep saying that Quality Enterprises is going to take over the Valley. And a little shout out to Dane, because he's supposed to be coming home and running this empire with me. So better get his ass home. But and fun fact, he was my first ever quality overhead doors helper. We were both cooking at the same bar.
Nice.
And I'm like, yo, you wanna work a couple hours when you're not in class? He's like, yeah, let's go. So it was just me and him driving around in the truck all day bullshit, and so it was cool. But so yeah, I was gonna dip into general construction, because going back to always answering, always showing up, stuff like that. Everybody would ask me, hey, do you do anything else? Would you mind taking a look at this? Would you mind looking at my bathroom? Would you mind looking at my kitchen?
Because you did such a good job with the first job you did
and
for them?
Yeah, just being reliable. I couldn't tell you in the beginning how many customers, when I would say I'd be there on Wednesday and I show up on Wednesday, they could not believe it. Yeah. And now, like any business, there's going to be, I'm really sorry, is there any way we could push it to 2 o'clock instead of noon? Is there any way we could push it to tomorrow? Because, I've had customers call me and say, hey, my cable broke on my door. And I'm in my head, I'm thinking how long it's going to take me. Okay, I can get there at 8. I should be pulling out of there by 9:30. It's a 20-minute drive to the next job. I'll be there at 10:15. Give myself like a 10-minute window. And then I get there and it's not a broken cable. It's actually a broken spring, which pop the cable off, and now I'm there 2.5 hours instead of an hour and 45 minutes. So it happens. But even in that instance, it's calling them and letting them know, hey, I'm running late. I couldn't believe how many people told me they wouldn't even get a phone call. You know, they'll give you a 4-hour window and they'll show up 6 hours later without a phone call, you know? And I'm like, wow.
So there's an opportunity here.
Yeah. And a lot of stuff that you don't really think about it. And it's a lot of little things that you don't think about that goes, you know, the extra mile. You know, I listen to, you know, your podcast regularly now and, you know, you guys every once in a while tossing out free shipping or just doing little things that might not sound like the biggest thing in the world to the average person, but to that specific client or customer, it's huge to them, you know, and that's one of the biggest things. It's when you call a bigger company in any format, whoever you talk to on Monday might not be who you're talking to on Wednesday. And every time I give my number out, I tell a customer the same thing. You're talking to me and only me. I promise you that. If you have one of my guys at your house, I will be there first. I'll meet you. I'll introduce myself. We'll go over the work. And then maybe if we get really bogged down, you might not see me, but you're going to meet me. That's my favorite part about owning a business. I'm personable. I love meeting people, talking to people. You know, I got to meet Nick Duval. I got to meet you, you know, like it's cool. You meet a lot of people. And we've probably said this 3 or 4 times already, but the Valley is a real small place.
It is.
And you meet, what's the term? Like six degrees separation?
Yeah, something like that.
It's crazy. In a 15-minute conversation, we found out you and I know 20 of the same people.
Right. And by the way, you know, for everyone that's listening right now, Ryan and I, we've never even met in person. Like this is literally the first time we've ever actually met in person. We didn't even know each other up until like a couple months ago when you shared a little video yourself about Nick Duval's episode on the podcast from, I forget, it was a few months ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, you know, like I said, small world. We know basically all of the same people and we didn't even know each other literally until like a couple months ago.
And it was weird because then you start, wait, you know this person? You know that person? Like that's, you know, that's crazy. So just like you know, like your dad on the podcast said he worked for Rainer. He worked with Mark who owned Quality Overhead Doors. It's a super, super small world.
It is. It's crazy.
And how everything plays out is really cool. That's how we got into the awnings. I still love the gym, but my schedule does not love the gym. So for a solid winter, I would show up in my steel toe boots, my cargo pants, cold gear Under Armour and you know, a flannel and a hoodie. And I'm trying to burn as many calories as I can as I'm dying in the gym and all my work gear. But I would only have 20 minutes, you know, so I would run in and if even in between calls, if I did, you know, late calls, 6, 7 at night, I'd get to the gym at 5:30 and be like, all right, I can, you know, do a quick 20-minute circuit and then boom, I'm right back to work. And a couple of people at the gym noticed. And one of the girls that noticed, her and her mom are accountants and they happened to know Ron Paulus, who owns Canvas Specialties, said he was looking to sell his service contract for the awnings. And she's like, I know the perfect guy. So they gave me a call and now I never met him. Never. I probably passed his shop in Ashley. It's right across the street from Pizza Bella 1,000 times in high school. We were always in Hanover. We had friends there. You know, Pizza Bella was our pickup and drop off spot from Nanticoke to Hanover.
Yep.
Had no idea this place was there. And when I walked in, it blew my mind. It was like Santa's workshop in there. He makes everything from scratch, custom. Like I'm sure here, you know, you guys get
same thing.
You know, shipments of paper in because I know you don't make paper here.
Right.
He would get rolls of canvas in and turn them into, you know, incredible awnings. And after one day of working with him, he goes, "All right, you're the one." And I'm like, that's kind of a weird thing to say. You know, is this Highlander?
Never met him.
Yeah. And he started laughing and he's like, no, he's like, I'm serious. He goes, you know, you're leaving here and you're going and doing garage doors at night because you can do that in the dark and you can't do awnings during the dark. He's like, you're the one I want to go into business with. So now we're partners. I own the installation and the service of his awnings, you know, Quality Custom Awnings, and he owns Canvas Specialties. So he makes everything I install. He does everything around here. I mean, we did the Wyoming Valley Country Club. We did Fastenal. We did, doorways, entryways, windows. And I feel like the pandemic didn't hurt him in a sense because we're doing so much more outdoor seating and waiting in lines, and a lot of places that never had an awning out their front door
now need one.
Or places that were like, not a big deal. It's getting weathered, but whatever, we'll worry about it down the road. Now they want a new one because now you have 5 people standing underneath it, waiting to get, bakery products or, whatever's still open.
Yeah, with a line out the door because
Exactly.
of social distancing.
Exactly. So, and the fact that he makes everything there, it frees him up a lot because he's not, we're running into a little bit of problem now with getting galvanized steel in and, getting some canvas and stuff. And I'm having an awful time getting doors in. I'm on like a 9 to 11 week waiting period right now for certain types of doors, but it's just unfortunately the state of things that we can't really control, So it was weird. I had to completely revamp what I wanted to do. I really wanted to get into general construction. I really wanted to.
Like this year?
Yeah.
Okay.
I talked about it all winter. I crunched numbers.
And does this go back to where you were saying earlier that people were saying like, hey, what else could you do for me?
Yeah. And I wanted, quality construction, just stick with the queue. And that was my goal for this summer. It was, we'll throw a line out there in the spring. I have a lot of buddies that do construction and they're swamped because they do great work. So, maybe they'll toss us some stuff here and there. Bellio might toss me something small. Another plug, Vishnesky Electrical at Anaticoke. We need some outlets or we need some, could you guys take care of it for us? Whatever. I wanted to talk to a bunch of people and kind of pick their brain about it and see what was going to happen. And February, I'm like, that's it. I'm going to do it. I'm pulling the trigger. I'm going to get the LLC made and I'm going to run with it.
And everyone knows where this is going.
Yeah. And then March.
Yeah.
And I'm
March.
like,
March
all
2020.
Right. Yeah. I'm like, all right, well, how about I just sit home now for 2 weeks and not work at all and then not do anything because I don't know what is going to happen 6 months from now. And that's, I think, the craziest part about it. You go from my second year, kind of want to hang everything up and, reevaluate everything because now my age is playing into it. I'm like, I'm 27. If I start over, it's got to be within the next year or two. I can't, wait until I'm 35 and then say, I needed a different career, to 2020 being hands down my best year ever in the business, solely speaking on the doors. And then adding the awnings on top of it, I went from, scrounging guys left and right whenever I could to I have a full-time guy and a part-time guy right now, which is crazy, and you're hoping the bubble doesn't burst, you're hoping that the work stays steady and everything, but it's a risk, but now I'm making 20 and I'm saving $19.50 and I'm keeping 50 cents instead of $1, so you just got to learn how to budget differently. And, but that's what really attracted me to your podcast because
what was it?
You have Duval, for instance, talking about how he transitioned many times over the course of his career, and he was 25. I was 25. There's a lot of things that I could pull
similarities.
From it. Him saying, did I make a mistake? Should I have kept the guaranteed when he was doing the remakes and stuff like that, or whatever was going through his mind. It's good to hear other business owners have the same doubts, fears, complications. I was up to my eyeballs in debt. I didn't know what was going to happen because it's at some point you start to alienate yourself and you start to think, is this only happening to me? Am I doing something wrong? Every business owner, I'm sure, if the pandemic happened this year, what's going to happen next year? What's going to happen in 2025? Should I try and get a job that's guaranteed? But from the pandemic, we learned nothing is guaranteed. So everybody was out of work or laid off for at least some point of the year. Some people still are, So the biggest thing with the pandemic, though, transitioned my way of thinking with the business. I went from the 25-year-old that was like, oh, I could stay out a little bit later tonight, or oh, I could call off. I'm going to go to Ocean City tomorrow, to I want to create jobs. I want to, I would rather, everybody wants to live comfortably. Everybody wants to make, a decent amount. Nobody wants to live below their means or poor. It's just, it's human nature. People want to succeed. But I really, really want to make sure that, I could have 3, 4, 5, hopefully 10 years down the road, 100 employees. I want to employ people. I want to provide jobs. I want to provide jobs for the community. When I went back to college, I'm like, I'm going to get my associates. I'm going to Florida. The exercise business is booming down there. I'm leaving the Valley. Then you're a business owner and you're like, what was I, nuts? Like I could, I could live here, comfortably, with
a good business.
Yeah, in a modest home and provide for my community, and doing good work is the biggest part of providing for your community. Because I am that meme where, the Leonardo DiCaprio,
Oh yeah,
where he's pointing and, whenever your dad drives by something, I built that. That is me to a T. Hey, I put that door in. I put that awning in. Yeah, my fiance hates me for it. I do it everywhere we go and it drives her nuts. And I don't want to do bad work. When I point that stuff out, I want...
You're proud of it.
Yeah. And that's another good reason to stick around.
Yeah.
And then I get to meet great people like you.
Yeah.
So
yeah, no, it's really cool. So, at what point, did your mindset change of like, hey, I'm just this young kid and you're still young.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
But I'm just this young kid of running this business and, to now saying like, hey, I want to, my new motivation is to, provide jobs for people in this area. Like what was it that changed? Like,
it was kind of a two-parter. My parents never cared what we did as long as we 100%, full effort, don't skimp on it, do a good job, your name is everything, be reputable. My stepdad, look people in the eyes, shake their hand hard, let them know who you are, introduce yourself, hold doors, be polite, be respectful. And once I started getting calls from customers that would say, hey, so-and-so told me you're the kid to call, like a little bit of recognition. It started to feel, good, and then Bellio's over in Kingston now, on Pringle Street. He owns an elementary school and I lease, part of the elementary school off, and that's where my shop is. So my shop's in Kingston. And guys would be coming in and out and be like, oh, who's this kid? Oh, hey, call him. He's does solid work, call him. Like getting that recognition, that I am moving in the right direction, that I am doing the right thing. It started to make me be more serious and more adult towards what it was like to be a business owner. I always wanted accountability, but it was nice getting the recognition for the accountability. And then after that, it kind of turned into everybody that I did have helping me in the past were college students or, buddies of mine.
Just
that,
helping out.
Yeah, like cousins and this and that. And then the past winter and then leading into the pandemic, it was somebody that was like, hey man, like I'd love, to work for you. I like doing this, this is neat, but can you get me through school? Can I stay with you and can you put me through school? And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, I'll figure it out. I'll do that because he's showing up every day. He's doing the work. He's listening. He's learning. So it's, and then when I had the opportunity with the awnings, it was my full-time employee. His name's Wayne. He was in the Navy for 8 years. He was living down south. I called him up and I'm like, hey, you want to move home? Like, do you trust me enough to move home and give you full-time work and you want to put in this effort with me and, build something out of this and grow the awnings and, start something with me? And he's like, didn't even hesitate.
Wow.
He's like, absolutely. So the kid picked up his entire life, moved it back home, when he hasn't lived in Pennsylvania since 2012, and that was like, when he said yes, that was the defining moment. Like, this is what I need to do. I need to grow. I need to, even if it's not, growing exponentially, but grow enough to keep people employed and keep jobs moving. Because you're seeing everybody's post online, like, how could, unfortunately, how could the governor do this? How could so-and-so do this? How could this happen? How could you keep us closed down like this? It sucks. And it sucks living here and knowing people personally that's going through that. So it kind of opened your eyes a little bit. Like, I have an opportunity to where I can, provide a job for somebody and a life for somebody, and it completely changes your, your perspective and your point of view, like your dad was saying, you guys got great people that work here. I'm sure it makes him beyond happy to say that.
Yeah. And he says that's his favorite thing.
Yeah.
He loves when customers say like, hey, Bill, like you just have some good people.
Yeah. And it's an awesome feeling. And to take it a step further, if you see somebody pull up here and they've been driving the same car for 5 years, and then all of a sudden on Monday they show up with a new car. They have a new car because they work for you full time and you could provide for them and their family. Like, that's awesome. Or someone comes in and says, hey, I got engaged over the weekend. Like, or hey, we bought our first home. Or hey, we're thinking about having a kid. That's awesome. Not as like an ego trip, but just as that's really cool. Like, in some small way, shape, or form, I could be a part of your life. You come here every day and you put in your effort and your life for me. And it's awesome that I can do something for yours. Like Nick was saying on his podcast, you're not buying a purse. You're buying 10 hours of one of his sowers' lives.
Yeah.
That's, when you look at it that way, it's an incredible feeling,
Yeah.
So you're not getting a garage door. You're getting 6 to 8 hours of me and my helper's lives, and 6 to 8 hours of me probably cursing and yelling at my helper when you're in your kitchen.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Or, hit myself with a hammer, or, cutting myself open, or putting a drill bit through my thumb, like some people.
Like I did last Thanksgiving. Yeah.
So it's cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And yeah, I want to kind of like touch a little bit in the beginning. You said, you got in a little trouble when you were younger and you went to jail. And, if it's okay, I just want to ask you, like, what was that experience like, and what did you learn from that? And how has that helped you to get where you are today?
3 things I learned, actually, that I definitely carry around. 1, I am very happy that I wrestled and I was in sports growing up, because thick skin. And for that situation, you need thick skin. To be a business owner, you need thick skin, because unfortunately, you will never make 100% of your customers happy. Unfortunately, someone's going to degrade you to your face. Somebody's going to put you down. You have to know how to handle it the right way. You can't, lose it. You can't do the same thing back to them. You have to take it with a grain of salt. So that was one of the biggest things. It's just how to handle, humility and embarrassment, for myself, for my family, for everything. It's how to handle that and process that the right way. Second is, it's called a correctional facility for a reason. It's supposed to correct what you did. It's supposed to make sure that, you don't ever do whatever it is, a DUI, whatever the case may be. It's supposed to stop you from doing that behavior again. There's consequences for a reason, and maybe when I own 3 businesses instead of 2, I get a little bit more clout to my name. That's definitely one thing I would love to pursue when I'm older, is just prison reform in general. It's an awful stigma. It's, oh, well, if you had that dark time, you're probably not worth anything. That is awful. And a lot of people told me I probably shouldn't bring it up, when I come in tonight, but that's what I'm trying to erase. That's what I'm trying to recreate, is everybody screws up. It's funny, because now that we are older, we're in our 30s now, you get those stories from like a relative or a family member where they're like, oh yeah, I did a weekend in jail. And you're like, what? Like Uncle John, what? You had no idea.
Yeah.
So it's tough to see how we handle it as a society. You know what I mean? It's tough to know that if an 18, a 19, a 20-year-old does something wrong, that's it. 45 years old, they're still paying for it. They might not have even gotten a jaywalking ticket in 25 years, but if somebody pings that up, on you, that's it. And
especially when trying to get a job
exactly. And now with the way social media is and the internet is, and everything's at the tip of your fingers, you could be phenomenal at what you do. You can hold yourself with the utmost respect and justification in your job on, this is why I'm best suited for this position. And you have one person that decides to pull their phone out and they're like, nope, sorry, we're going to go with somebody else. It's an awful feeling, I've got 1,000,001 opportunities that I should never have gotten. I worked at K Jewelers. You know what I mean? Like, that was unheard of 10, 15 years ago if you had a record. So it's nice to see it's slowly starting to evolve. But my biggest problem is it's like an adult daycare. We're going to take all these guys that did something, and women, we're going to take all these people that did something wrong, and we're going to put them in a room with each other and, let them fester until somebody sitting behind a desk says, yeah, 18 months is enough, or yeah, a year is enough. It's weird when you talk about it out loud that that's how our legal system is set up, and a lot of these guys, you give them a purpose and their life changes, especially people that deal with addiction. You shouldn't, be condemned because you're an addict. I know people, I know brothers, I know sisters where they grew up in the same household. One became an alcoholic, one didn't. One became an addict, one didn't. It's a weird argument of nature over nurture, on what you're going to get out of that statistic. But to throw someone's life away because of that is it's awful. And it's an awful feeling. So now you have somebody that already feels low about themselves. They're already, rock bottom. They're in the pit. And then you throw your views and, stern glares and, neglect on them on top of it. It's awful. So that's definitely something that stuck with me right from so I was 18. So you're talking 12 years ago now, and every day it's definitely something that when I had my rental, I helped a lot of people out, with the rental that probably didn't deserve it, or I shouldn't have, and a couple of it came back, to bite me. But like I said, I got a lot of chances. So now it's my turn to, give somebody a chance, help them out, do what I can,
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Maybe quality will make a run for office one day. I don't know.
No, it's really cool. It's a really, really good outlook on the whole thing. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah. So let's obviously you install garage doors, and I'm sure everybody's heard that 10 times already, but we didn't really talk about. So like who's an ideal? Let's talk about your business a little bit. Like who's an ideal customer for you? Commercial, residential, both, awnings. Tell me a little bit more about like your business and if somebody's listening right now and says like, hey, like what could you do?
So the hardest stigma that I need to break is I could just buy it at Lowe's or I could just buy it at Home Depot. You can. You absolutely can. And you could save yourself 40, 60, 80, $100.
And drill a hole through your thumb like me.
Exactly. But when you're doing it for so long, there's little things that you pick up on. There's things you notice. There's, you might save $100 today, but cost yourself $200 tomorrow. Like, the old saying. So I like doing commercial because it's challenging. Everything's bigger. Everything's more dangerous, live life on the edge of the ladder type of deal, But I really enjoy doing residential because I get to meet, a lot of people. I had one customer in Wilkes-Barre that was a garage door customer, got along great. I did a couple of repairs for them. Eventually, they called me to replace their door and had, decent working relationship with them. It got to the point where I saw them like once every 8-9 months because they wanted to do little things here and there, which is awesome. And then when I buy the awning company, they're an awning customer that I service. So when I showed up at the house, the wife was like, oh my God, like I can't believe this. This is awesome. She was super excited, which made me feel great because they love my service, so they love the garage doors. They're obviously going to be okay with me taking over for the awnings for them. So I like residential because it's personable. A lot of people aren't comfortable with you being at their home without you there. So someone's going to meet me no matter what. It's either they're going to meet me the day I come there to give them the estimate or to look at what the problem is, or they're going to meet me when I'm there to do the work. So that's really cool. And then again, when they call, they talk to me. When I show up, they see me. So it's nice. It's definitely nice. But there's a lot. I mean, Wayne, for instance, he's learning now. There's a lot more that goes into it than people think. So there's a lot of telltale signs on when something's going to break, when it's not. You could do yearly service if you want to. You could do bi-yearly service, whatever the case may be. But yeah, I like residential probably the most just because you get that personal effect.
Yeah.
But we do everything, motors, springs, cables, new doors, replacement panels, everything. I called Mark the garage door guru because he could fix anything. So if you're out there and you have an old wooden door, chances are I could fix it before you have to get a new one. So
That's
something
good.
from 1977 you can hold on to if there's like some sentimental value there, because I could fix it. So
and like, do you do like custom doors?
yeah, I can get pretty much anything size wise. There's a bunch of different dealers in the area, so I can get pretty much anything. We started to do a little bit more of the full view glass doors, for restaurants and bars and stuff like that, which are really cool. I just did 2 of them over the summer. Someone I know personally redid their entire patio. An outdoor pizza oven and, an outdoor bar, and it's beautiful. And then to tie it all together, he puts these 2, black framed all glass garage doors, and it's gorgeous. He's got, the raw wood, the clean wood look, it's incredible. So it's really neat seeing, again, this is thanks to Facebook and technology, but people noticing that you can do more with garage doors than just throw a white door up to hold your car in and, keep it away from the elements. You can throw a garage door on your back patio. There's that picture that's been circulating Facebook for years now where it's the garage door above the kitchen sink, the wooden kitchen. Yeah. So everybody sees it. Everybody tags me in it every time it pops up. But things like that, like it's neat. A part of me kind of wishes I did do some work out in California, because they're big on the full view and like the aluminum, and I don't know why. I don't know why they're so popular out there, but they do a ton out there. So it's neat. I think it's because a lot more newer homes, and they go a little bit more modern out there, and it's kind of a more modern feel.
Okay.
So, but yeah, they're sharp. They're real sharp.
Yeah. What are there any other like really cool, fun projects that maybe you've worked on recently? Like what's been like one of the most like interesting, fun, cool, unique? I mean, you talked about the one with the, like you just said, like in the backyard with the that sounds really cool.
Garage door wise, that was awesome. Awning wise though, so we do, like I said earlier, windows, porches, full patios, and then we do curtains. So I know personally, my grandparents always had that, like, the fake looking bamboo roll up curtain on the front porch, and they used it every day in the summer. So we do canvas curtains that roll up in the same manner. And we just did, we enclosed Pisano Winery up in Hunlock Creek on 29.
I think I saw that on Instagram.
Yeah, we did. They wanted to keep the outdoor natural wood look. The Amish came in and built everything, and it's phenomenal. And working, with Bellio, I had the pleasure of working with the Amish multiple times, and they are just out of this world. I know they're never going to hear this, but they're out of this world. They do phenomenal work, and they came in and put this addition on to put an outdoor bar in. But in the summertime, it's great because everything's open and it's, it feels like you're in the country. It's really nice. But with COVID restrictions and winter, they were trying to figure out, what they could do. So we put these roll-up curtains in, and then they have the stand-up heaters, because the curtains do retain, a decent amount of heat.
Yeah.
So that's probably, besides the glass doors that I do get to do more often now, that's hands down probably my favorite job in recent memory, because it looks phenomenal. And then as soon as spring hits, they'll unclip them and they'll just roll them up and tie them. And that's it. Like, now everything's open. The curtains are rolled up, they're tucked away, and it aesthetically, it looks phenomenal up or down. So and then if you get, a real bad rainstorm or anything like that, you just go over and drop them down just for the day, so people stay dry. You could still sit outside, so that was a really, really fun project. And it was real nice learning that side of the trade too, because there's definitely a lot with the awnings.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool. The one big benefit that I get from the awnings that I can't get with the doors is how everything is made in-house. So eventually, Ron will retire and I'm going to take over, the whole thing. So eventually I'll be making everything by hand, stitch by stitch, and then coming to your house and installing it. So that's really cool, because 10, 20 years from now, the canvas may be replaced 3 times, but the frame's still there. And I replaced the canvas 2-3 times, you know, and there's going to be me on the highway pointing. I did that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And the awning, same thing, you know, residential, commercial. We do permanent. We do seasonal. That was the part of the business that I bought. I do his seasonal account. So every spring, we install them. Every winter, we take them down. We store them for the winter, it gives longevity to them. They're not getting dry rotted from the snow, or the snow's not tearing them, you know, because we'll have one winter where we don't get anything, and then one winter we get 2 feet.
Yeah.
So 2 feet on an awning doesn't fare well. The winter normally wins that battle. So, but so yeah, same thing. It's a cool concept to do both.
Yeah. So, you know, going back to being a business owner, you know, you're a young business owner, which is like really cool. What advice would you give to someone, you know, like yourself, you know, either just starting out or somebody that's looking to maybe, you know, make the jump and start their own business, or like you did, you know, buy into another existing business? Like what advice would you give to someone?
I've been asked a couple times, and the funniest thing I've told someone so far is, do your business Monday through Thursday and find a Friday, Saturday, Sunday warehouse job. Because you would be surprised how many times you turn around and you're like, oh, there's more money going out. But hold yourself accountable from day one. Definitely be personable with customers. Any trade, you know, if your business is face to face, if you're, you know, you want to start electrical, you want to start plumbing, anything like that, it's definitely, you know, be personable, be respectful. Tell your guys don't curse, you know, when you're at the house. You know what I mean? Just
little things.
Yeah, literally little things, you know. We all wear work clothes, you know, we all drive work vehicles, you know, don't show up to somebody's house in a suit and, you know, a freshly waxed vehicle. That's not realistic, you know, just present yourself well, you know, speak clearly, be nice, you know, don't lie, because customers are going to find out. They have Google, you know, don't make something up. If you don't know, say, I don't know, but I can find out for you. That goes a long way.
Sure does.
And do your research, because I wasn't under the impression that I was the only, you know, garage guy in town, but I did not realize how many companies there were. I'm thinking there was 5 or 6 at the time, and there was like 11, 12. And it's not necessarily a bad thing, but one of the small gripes I have with my trade is every contractor thinks they can install a door. And don't get me wrong, for the most part, if you're handy, it's something you can pick up. But like I said, there's those little things that unless you do it every day, you're not going to know. Or for instance, I was doing general construction. I hate tile work. It takes me forever to tile something. So I call a buddy of mine. His name's Kyle Etzel. Kyle's Tiles Construction. Give him a call. I had him come in and fix something for me because it was in the peak of the awning season. I just did not have time. And I mean, he did a phenomenal job in 6 hours that would have taken me 3 days to do. That's not even an exaggeration.
Wow.
It would have taken me a day to rip it out, a day to put it in, a day to grout it. And the next morning we were showering. You know, it was in the shower. So
wow.
Little things like that, you know, and then the problem with contractors doing it is then the homeowner calls the contractor when there's something wrong. And then the contractor reaches out to other garage door, you know, installers in the area. And then we have to like kind of deconstruct what you guys did to try and figure out what was wrong. And it could be something so minute as a bolt out of place, but we got to look over the whole thing and try and figure it out, you know? But yeah, just do your research, be super presentable, be very nice, and tough it out. That's
nice.
The biggest thing.
Yeah.
People say to me all the time, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Right.
And that's not a joke.
That's true.
Know? I'm sure you guys know some print shops that have popped up, come and gone in the past, or you know.
Yeah.
So if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Everybody else would be doing it.
So tough it out. If it's something you really want to do and you're passionate about it, and you know you have a good head on your shoulders, tough it out. You know, it'll either pan out, or I was told this, and I really believe it, because my second year I was on the fence. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. And like I was saying earlier, my parents, my stepdad, I cannot say enough good things about him. He's probably the reason why I am the way I am today. Same thing. He's like, well, why don't you see? Well, you could work with Josh. Keep working with Josh. You'll figure it out. Keep going. If you're adamant that you want to get out of it, or it wasn't the wrong move, the right move, if it was the wrong timing, or, you had the wrong help or the wrong people, just end it. But if you're on the fence, keep pushing. Because that's one of the biggest things I learned from a lot of people. I had a lot of guys tell me, I gave up my construction company and now I work for somebody else. But I knew I was done. I was done with the long nights. I was done with this. I was done with that. I was done with, I'm always the first call, when something goes wrong with my guys or my customers, my employees, whatever. I knew I was out. If you don't know, if you're on the fence, keep trucking. So that's probably the biggest thing.
Cool. Nice. So in the beginning, you talked a little bit about maybe you thought you were going to go to Florida and do the fitness thing.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of people in this area, and because you listen to the podcasts, you probably heard this a couple times, but I think a lot of people in this area, have thought oh, hey, I'm going to move to another state and I'm just going to kill it down there and it's going to be great. Right. But then people don't end up doing it, or they do and they come back.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, listen, man, I had this whole plan, even when I bought the business, that I was going to franchise and I was going to open up another one in Florida because I love Florida. I love it. I'm fortunate enough to where instead of a 2.5-hour drive to Philly, I take a 2.5-hour flight to Florida. I have friends all over the state, family, we stay with everybody. Love it down there. Definitely my second home. There's garages everywhere. And I'm like, oh man, my first year up here, I'm going to kill it. And by year 3, I'm going to be down in Florida and I'm going to be, this is going to be great. And quality is going to be a franchise. So wrong. So wrong. But, and I don't want people to misinterpret me either. You should definitely travel, experience. You should experience different cultures, different lifestyles. I mean, think about it. Us growing up here in the Valley compared to just growing up in Allentown is drastically different.
Yeah.
And you're only talking a 45-minute turnpike drive away, but don't think that grass is always greener on the other side, Now, I do have some friends where their attitude was, well, if I'm going to live a so-so life, mediocre and or struggle in the Valley, I would rather have that same life 20 minutes from the beach, or have that same life where things are open 10 months, 11 months out of the year instead of 4, with the nice weather. That's an awesome mentality. If that's the way you feel, then knock it out of the park. Go down there, relax, be able to walk outside, in shorts and a t-shirt, 300 days out of the year. That's great. That's my dream for the Valley, But I just realized that, like we said, everybody knows everybody. There's a lot more opportunity to here because you have that community. I have people that I haven't talked to since high school that share my stuff on Facebook. And it's, you just lose touch. It's not that we don't talk for a reason.
Sure.
But that you have those one or two people that you're friends with on social media where they never comment, they never post, they're just there. They're lurking in the back,
Yeah.
And they're the ones that are sharing my stuff. It's a community, or you go to somebody's house and you're like, hey, you took care of my sister, you took care of my aunt. You could get that in other states, but you don't get the background connection. I love 65 and older customers because they want to talk to you about high school. They want to talk to you about the years they were in trades. They just want to talk, and they are great to just sit in their garage, and talk and bullshit with. And we had a guy that we were doing awnings for, and he's like, hey, where are you guys from? And we're like, oh, we're all from here, all from the Valley. And he goes, where's my GAR guy at? And my one helper who went to GAR wasn't with us. And I'm like, oh man, he's not here today. Yeah. And he's like, oh man, I would have loved to talk to him about GAR. Like, you don't get that when you leave home. This is your hometown, you know? And I would rather make the connections, have the opportunities, and then travel, explore, go out, do and see other things. Because the appeal does wear off. The novelty wears off.
Yeah.
You're always excited when your plane touches down in a different state. Oh, it doesn't matter where you can be going to Oklahoma. You're excited,
Exactly. Yeah.
But when you wake up every day, it's going to lose the appeal, and I like that. I like being home and meeting everybody, talking to everybody, hanging out, getting your good pizza and wings that for some reason the rest of the United States just can't seem to get right.
Yeah, seriously.
And then going and traveling, bouncing around.
So I think you pretty much already like answered my next question, but what's your favorite thing about NEPA?
It's the food, man. Everybody I talk to, we're on this, Wayne that was in the Navy, and it's funny because he's probably going to kill me for telling this story, but he said the hardest thing that he had to explain it, because he was in Chicago, he was in California, he was in Africa, he was on a ship for 9 months, he was in North Carolina. I mean, he's been everywhere when he was in the military. He said the craziest thing that he had to explain to people is that in the summer, on any given weekend, we go to a church parking lot to drink, gamble, and eat potato pancakes.
At what's called a bazaar.
Yeah.
That's the best part.
He said that it blew people's minds. But I mean, if you think about it, we're, aside from Philly, New York City, places like that, we have such a diverse background here. And the food is just phenomenal anywhere you go. And then when you leave and you get something else, you're like, this sucks.
Yeah.
Because even when you go on vacation and you try not to get something commercialized, and then you think of home, if you leave like the Arena Hub, nothing's commercialized. But you're in, Orlando or, wherever, every block you have some kind of chain, something. I feel like we're fortunate enough to where you really do. You leave that Arena Hub and you've got 125 in a 8-block radius of small business owners that make all the same food, but somehow all taste drastically different. It's incredible,
Yeah.
So definitely the food, and these microbreweries that keep popping up everywhere isn't a bad touch either. So,
definitely not. Yeah.
So, and also thank you for having Stegmeyer on, because that was cool.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
So I hope he knows everybody loves his beer. So he needs to also keep trucking. So.
Yeah, cool.
And for any small business owner out there, I've said this a couple of times recently, but if Cinema 309 can keep pulling after a recession in 2008 and a pandemic in 2020, you guys could tough it out.
I think that was the best thing you said this whole time.
I mean, if they're still killing it, I mean,
yeah,
the Great Valley Secret.
Oh, that's too funny. So how can our listeners connect with you online?
So I don't do much on the awnings right now. I kind of leave that up to Ron because he's still the brains behind the operation. He designs and makes everything. He's phenomenal. But you can look up Canvas Specialties. He has a website. He has a Facebook that he neglects, and I'm going to take it over and run with it these next couple months. But Quality Overhead Doors has a website, has a Facebook, has an Instagram. I'm a little bit more active with my Instagram only because I do a lot of before and after photos, and it's the fastest place to see a large amount. And it's just one swipe. Here's what it looked like. Here's what it looks like now. Give us a call. And I kind of do a lot of like boosting on Facebook, so like paid marketing and stuff like that. So we haven't done much because I've been slammed and I can't get anything in. So we haven't really been active on Facebook, but I always update the Instagram because I want people to see what we're doing. So I definitely gotta get back on Facebook in the next month or two, but I'm kind of waiting for our lead times to slow down a little bit. And now that I see states are kind of rolling out more restrictions, my plant's in Kansas City, so I'm just waiting to get an email saying, hey, just so you guys know, we're down to 50% capacity again. I'm like, all right, I'll get a door in 2022. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, we could service everything. We can, I buy rolls, 500-foot rolls of cable. I can fix cables, and we could fix springs, and, we can do anything that you need for the time being and to get you through the winter. Winters suck. Nobody wants to park outside. So we could take care of whatever you need.
Cool. Did anyone ever tell you look like Conor McGregor?
Oh, I wish you didn't say that. So I don't know if we're like bearing our time limit here, but I am a diehard. When I tell you massive Conor McGregor fan, not only did I see him win the second belt in New York City against Eddie Alvarez, but I was at the Mayweather fight in Vegas.
Okay.
And how we just spent this whole podcast talking about the Valley. I had an awful week leading up to me leaving for Vegas. Everything that could have went wrong. A truck breaking down, a door came in wrong, customers canceling, checks bouncing, everything. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to Vegas. I've never been there before. This is great. And sidebar, I went alone to Las Vegas.
Wow, okay.
I went alone to Vegas, alone to the fight. Ended up running into a bunch of people at a pool bar that were from the UK that lived and worked in Abu Dhabi that had some serious money and got me VIP to like all this stuff. And just because I looked like Conor and they thought it was great.
That is awesome.
When I went and picked up my ticket, I was the dumb fan that thought that fight was going to sell out, which it didn't even come close to doing. So I paid way over face value for my ticket because I wanted to guarantee that I got a ticket.
Sure, yeah.
And I bought it from a third party. So I go to pick it up, and it didn't necessarily look like a sketchy place, but it was like an Edwardsville shopping mall storefront. So it kind of looked out of place of where I was picking up a very expensive ticket to a very expensive fight. But then when they opened the door, there was an armed guard. And I'm like, okay, this place is legit because they must have millions of dollars worth of tickets in a safe somewhere, you know? So the girl at the counter asked me for my ID. It's very nice. Takes my ID. She goes in the back. And I hear her go, oh, we got another PA boy. And I hear a guy go, let me see that. So I'm assuming she hands him my ID. He comes out and he goes, where'd you go to high school, bud? I go, Nanny Coke. He goes, I went to Valley View. We used to wrestle you. I said, you sure did. And I laughed and he goes, yeah, we weren't good. I said, no, you were not. And then we started laughing. He's like, well, where are you from in Hunlock Creek? Because I got family that lives out right next to Lake Silkworth. I said, I'm a 4-minute drive from Lake Silkworth. And now we're going back and forth. So not only did we know a lot of the same people in town, but then he gives me tickets to the weigh-ins that I did not have. And then he goes, did she give you your ticket? I said, yeah. He goes, let me see it back. He looks at it. He goes, you got 5 minutes? I said, I got until the fight, man. I'm not doing nothing. I'm here alone. And I started laughing and he's like, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. So he goes, I'll be right back. So he goes in the back and he comes out with the ticket. Its face value matched what I paid. And it bumped me up 2 sections. So I went from nosebleeds to the first tier to watch this fight.
Wow.
And when he handed me my ticket, he goes, Valley guys, stick together, man. Have a good fight.
That's awesome.
And he gave me his cell number and his partner's cell number. And he said, anytime you come to Vegas, give us a call. We'll hook you up with whatever you need. He goes, me and him moved out here about 10 years ago and we never looked back. Wow. So you want to talk about small valley, small world.
That's NEPA.
That is, and it's pride.
Yeah.
You even like,
and you didn't even know each other.
No.
And he was just so willing to just say, I want to help you out.
Exactly. Literally never met him, never spoke to him, didn't know anybody in his immediate family, nothing.
Wow.
And that was one of the craziest things. And, even the people that we know that move away, you get mad if someone talks about the Valley. You could move to California at 18. You could be 58 years old and someone can say, yeah, the office sucks. What'd you say about Scranton?
Yeah, what? Like, I don't even live there, but what?
Yeah, like you really do. You have a sense of pride growing up here and living here, and it's really cool.
That is awesome.
And real quick before I forget, nobody in my immediate family owns a small business. They are all, college grads, medical field, law enforcement, military. I was the first one. Now I have other family members that own, one owns a restaurant, one owns a garage, stuff like that. But nobody in my immediate family that I see every day owned a business. So doing all of this was terrifying in the beginning. So if anybody out there is listening and you want to make the jump, do it. Listen to the podcast with your dad, pick those books up because I am also going to be doing that.
Cool.
So
my dad will love to hear that.
Yeah, I'll give you some feedback once I rip through it.
Cool.
But and it's funny because we were listening to it on a job today, and
my dad's episode.
Yeah, and my helper goes, "Oh man, I heard of that book. Everybody I know tells me to read that book." And I'm like, all right, well, I guess we're going to order 2 copies tonight so we can jam through it. So
really cool.
Yeah. So
nice.
He'll be happy to hear that.
Nice. Yeah, he definitely will. Yeah.
So Conor McGregor Jr. here. If construction fails,
you'll be a Conor McGregor double.
Yeah, stunt double.
Right?
whatever they need. If Hollywood's looking, I'm out here. I'm not hard to find.
Oh, that's too funny. Oh man, well, hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on and sharing your story and everything in between. Your Conor McGregor lookalike, the whole bit. But no, really, it was really cool learning, and I appreciate you sharing the stories. So
absolutely, it was cool being here.
Yeah. So on the Stacks podcast, quality overhead doors, Ryan Garvey. Thanks for joining me.
Thank you, man.
If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.